Hi there, fellow data enthusiasts. Today I'm recording a video. So if you have Osiris, this is about a screen that we're adding to Osiris that you might be interested in, especially if you're doing content maintenance or content refreshes. But in general, the methodology here might be interesting to a broader audience. So if you're not an Osiris user and you don't know me, I'm Eric Dietrich, and this is a series of videos we're doing and introducing people to this sort of souped up analytics tool, or at least that's a part of what Osiris is. So this is about, you're going and doing content maintenance on your site, meaning you want to preserve your search engine traffic, and a URL is getting old, maybe it's the best tips for whatever in 2023, and you want to update that so it's for 2026. This is generally the idea of a content refresh. And what I would encourage you to be doing, regardless of your relationship to us and refreshes or Osiris or anything like that, is to absolutely be evaluating the efficacy of those efforts. So you can just go out, I guess, and update stuff on your site, but you have no idea whether that's actually like worth doing or not. Instead, what I would recommend that you do is do a batch of these refreshes and then see what happens on those URLs in terms of rank for head keywords and traffic. And if you're getting value out of it, then absolutely keep doing it. If you're not, maybe you regroup and ask whether what you're doing is valuable or you should do something different. But you should, I would generally not recommend ever blindly just executing something like that on your site, because it might just be a waste of your time and money. So anyway, if you want to be evaluating how effective that is, there is one extremely important prerequisite that you need to be documenting, and that is the exact date on which you did that intervention. And you might think like, okay, I'm going to go in over the course of a week and I'm going to update a bunch of URLs, and then later it's okay. I'll just look back and I'll see what the published or last modified date was on the CMS. Please do not rely on that, because somebody else might come in and like add a link or something and it revs the date because you have a plugin that does. There's all manner of ways the date can become wrong or inaccurate on client CMSs, or your CMS, I should say. So you want to be pretty buttoned up about documenting the date that you did the intervention. That is the main prerequisite to this evaluation, because if, I'm looking at a screen here where I did a bunch of these on 9/27/24, if I was wrong about that and we actually did that on 9/29/24, then this analysis, which I'll get into in a moment, the before and after traffic, is completely useless because you have the wrong intervention date. So you're actually getting some of the before in the after and vice versa, and it pollutes the whole sample. So it is crucially important to have the right data in here. If you are working with us on content maintenance, don't you worry, we are taking care of that for you. But if you're just watching this because you're interested in the subject, you need to be sure that you're recording the right date and not trusting your CMS to just show the right date. So anyway, that aside, let's take a look at this screen. If you are an Osiris user or have been, you might have seen an earlier version, which is kind of hard-coded in here. So this is touch-up refresh performance, and this is a simpler thing, so I'll walk through this. What you're looking at here, even though this is cut off a little bit, I've got a series of URLs on our community site, Make Me a Programmer. And on these various dates in 2024, I went in and, just for the sake of demonstration and experimentation, I took some URLs that have been declining in traffic and performed refresh on them. So this generally involved re-optimizing for SEO, making changes to them, adding a little bit of content, updating old versions, etc. There are a lot of different interventions you can do. I'm not going to get into the weeds of that here, but basically you're trying to create a fairly substantial change set on the URL, add new information, that type of thing, and then you hit publish, and crucially you're going to want to change the date that it says on that URL. And the idea there is Google will, all the crawlers will take note of that change, and if they see it's a fairly substantial change, they may well give it another boost in the rankings to see how searchers like the new version of the site. So what we're doing here, and what you're looking at, is this is a series of URLs, and this is the date that we executed a refresh on. Osiris is taking a look at what was the traffic to these URLs in the 7 days prior to the refresh, and then what was the traffic to these URLs in the 7 days following the refresh. And 7 days is hard-coded in here because this is what's called a touch-up refresh. And without getting into the weeds of that, it's a kind of refresh where we expect to see results fairly quickly. Usually as soon as the URL gets indexed with this type of refresh, you will see it get a boost in rankings and often traffic. So what we're looking at is the 7-day window to see, is that actually happening? And what you're looking at here, the week before at the individual URL level, this one got 12 visitors. The week after we did the refresh intervention here, it got 34, so that's a pretty substantial increase in visitors. Now, one thing to see here and note as you're going through this, it doesn't always work. So like this was not a particularly good use of anybody's time. No visitors before, no visitors after. Sometimes these figures are even negative. Really what you want to be doing here, and why I'm aggregating this at the top, so this is the total visitors before and after, the total difference and the total increase. You want to aggregate this across a good bit of data. I would give it at least 10 URLs so that you can, it's kind of like a casino game. You're not going to get a sense for what the odds of blackjack are by playing a single hand, but if you play 100, you will probably lose to the house 53% of the time, or whatever the aggregate odds on well-played blackjack are. It's the same kind of thing here. You want enough data that you can get a good sense of whether this is working or not. So this is the simple version of the screen, and this is just anything that is considered a touch-up refresh goes in here, and you're seeing the 7 days before and after. The screen that we have added more recently is kind of the manual transmission version of this. You have more control, more data that you can play with here. We have only done a touch-up or standard refresh on this site, but on your site, we may be doing something called a maintenance refresh or a comprehensive refresh or a decannibalization refresh. So there are different kinds of refreshes. If there were more than one kind of refresh here, you would be able to filter by that one only, or mix and match them, and you would see what shows up here. You can also select by date, so if for whatever reason you only wanted to see stuff this year, well, in this case, all of these would fall away, but it's another option you have, is to filter out certain dates so you can get a sense of which wave of refreshes did what. And then finally, the days after the refresh. So before we were looking at a 7-day window, but I'm not going to get too into the weeds of this, but here is an 8-day window across these refreshes, 68 before, so we're talking about 160% difference. But if we go further out, 15 days, we actually see that the difference is even more pronounced. That's not entirely surprising. It might keep coming up as those URLs have a chance to react. And then generally, if we're looking at like a month out, what starts to happen is the effects of the refresh kind of wear off. You might want to do one of these every 6 months. So we're still doing pretty well. This is the 30 days and before and after the refreshes. So there is some durable improvement on these URLs across the board, and that is definitely helping. Oh, I think here, 1 second. Fix that, sorry, in the demo version. For some reason, Looker really likes to, every time I do anything, reset this to not be a percent. These percentages look more appropriate. So anyway, you can see that we have some pretty good lift over this 30-day window, and then over the course of time, I haven't actually looked at this, so I hope it doesn't make a fool of me, but you'll start to see this kind of wear off because a refresh is more of a temporary intervention, and yeah, the quarterly window here, you're still seeing a pretty good lift, but it's less and less pronounced. And then as you go out here to 180 days, you would expect to see that tail off even more as it kind of reverts to the mean. And that's why you typically, if you were really doing everything right on your site, I would touch every URL once every 6 months, at least the ones that are earning or attempting to earn organic traffic, because there is a natural decline that happens with traffic over the course of time. And a refresh, it does boost traffic in the short term, but really what you're looking to do is make the eventual decline more flat and less steep and pronounced. And that's really all you're looking for. So by the time we would drag this window out to maybe a year, at some point you would expect it to break even and get back to zero, because you would want to do another round of this and keep going. But when you're doing this, what you want to look for in this screen, generally speaking, is when you're doing refreshes, number one, are you getting lift at all? I mean, this figure isn't representative. I would generally look in the 7-day window for something between maybe 5 and 20%. And if you have that or better, that's an indicator that you want to keep doing that. If it's less than 5, if you're not getting any lift, or even you're continuing to lose ground, then you might regroup and say, what could we do different? Is there something that isn't working about refreshes? And then you can also expand this window out, so it isn't the craziest thing in the world for there to be very little movement in the short term with some of these types of refreshes. If it were short enough, you might not see anything, and then you extend it out to 10 or 15 days. what you're looking for is, to find some window in which there is improvement or growth here for your site, and that's going to vary by site. Google will crawl some sites constantly, and you might see very quick lift. Slower, sleepier, lower authority sites, they may not notice the things you've been doing for a while, and it might take longer to get that lift. But you do want to be kind of dragging this around and looking to see, like, is there some kind of improvement that's going on with this intervention? Because if there isn't, then you want to hit pause and try to figure out why not, and maybe what you can do about it before you continue down this road of just like doing stuff to every URL on your site to no effect. So that is the master refresh view. Anybody who's interested in having this, we're happy to roll it out and get you set up with it if you have an Osiris instance. And if not, and you want one, let us know. That's obviously something we would be happy to help you with as well. So hopefully that in general is helpful, and thank you for watching.